Our conversation with the ladies from the League of Women Voters of Indiana County, the Environmental Issues Committee this morning, is brought to you by Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. Now, Cindy Rogers is with us this morning, and Cindy, you brought a couple of friends with you.
I did.
Yeah.
Good morning, and thank you for having us. Laurie LaFontaine is here. She's also a member of the League, and Stephanie Wadzowski. I can never say her name right.
Yeah, I have to put it online, so I'm going to need a spelling on that.
Okay.
You can say LaFontaine, but not Wadzowski.
So, what we came to talk about today is plastic. Mm-hmm. There are so many things happening in the community and the world right now about plastic. Every time you turn the radio on, there's research and things going on about the use of plastics and what it's happening. And plastics really came out of our Marcellus Shale fracking boom, because without natural gas, you don't have plastic. So natural gas, a component in it is what's making plastic. The upside is employment opportunities. The downside is that we don't need any more plastic in our world. It's polluting our oceans. It's getting in our bodies. Fish are eating it, thinking it's food. And recycling is not always the answer. Recycling is part of the answer, but only a small percentage of plastics can actually be recycled. Mm-hmm. So we sort of need to change the culture. We need to think about our consumption and our use, and even go back further to industry and how they package things, because there are so many things that have, everywhere we look, there's plastic in every field. And we're primarily concerned with single-use plastic, the stuff we use for 2 seconds and throw away in the garbage. Mm-hmm. So we have a film coming up on November 23rd. It's going to be at the Philadelphia Street Playhouse, the one across from the Artist Hand Gallery. Mm-hmm. And it is called Bag It, and it is about, is your life too plastic? And it's really sort of a humorous, very good film, but it's also a little scary because there's a lot of facts in it that you'll probably be surprised at. Mm-hmm. And then after the movie, we're going to be talking a little bit about what's happening in our county, in Indiana, some research that IUP students are doing, a project that a young high school student is doing, collecting plastic to turn them into benches. Mm-hmm. So some really interesting things.
Yeah. Okay. And so we're going to learn more about them from Laurie and Stephanie this morning. And again, the event is Saturday night.
Saturday, yes.
Yeah,
the 23rd at 6:30. And it is free, and we're going to be handing out free metal straws to anybody that comes.
Free metal straws.
Metal straws, that's right.
There you go. Okay, so Laurie, help us to understand this issue a little bit better.
Well, I think everyone out there has just overlooked how impactful plastic is. It's everywhere. I started paying attention as I'm driving along roads, now that I've been on the League's Environmental Committee, to look at how much plastic is along the roads. Mm-hmm. Plastic bags, plastic bottles, plastic this, plastic straws, everywhere. And even in your yard, how many times have you noticed we've had a windstorm, and in the trees there are those plastic bags, and they're annoying. They're there for, months and months, and you're constantly looking at it thinking, I wish that would blow away. So it's so invasive that it's become part of our natural environment, which is wrong. So we're trying to raise awareness because it is everywhere. It impacts our waterways, our streams, and everything goes down somewhere else, eventually to the ocean. And maybe because we're in western Pennsylvania and we're so far removed from the ocean, we don't think about it. It's somebody else's problem, but it's everybody's problem.
There's something called microplastics that are smaller than 5 millimeter, which is like the size of a eraser on a pencil.
Okay.
There's manufactured microplastics, which is what is turned into big usable plastic things. But there's also secondary microplastics, which are all over the ocean because it's what happens to plastic when it breaks down. It gets into tiny, tiny little pieces, and fish eat it. And we're eating it. And they're a study that just came out that, and it's still under review, but people consume about 5 grams of plastic a week, either in drinking water or food that we eat. Mm-hmm. That's roughly equivalent of a credit card.
Yeah.
that we're consuming in our bodies. It's a little scary.
Yeah, Stephanie just got a look on her face like, I didn't need to hear that.
Well, yeah, I only have one credit card. I'd rather not eat it, so.
Yeah. Well, Stephanie, let's hear from you on this topic.
Oh, sure. Well, as a young person, it feels like it's frustrating because it feels like we're not moving fast enough in some regards. Well, there is some hopeful news. I think Marriott International just announced that they would be phasing out their small shampoo bottles by 2020, but that isn't enough. And it's not enough for us as consumers, in my opinion, to just, stop using plastic bags at the grocery store if we can, or, get healthier options for like toothbrushes or toothpaste. I really think that we need to be pushing this systematically, like Cindy said, like hold governments accountable, hold industry and corporations accountable. We have that power as consumers and as constituents, I think.
One of the interesting things I saw on Friday was when the state released their study. DEP did a study of trash and found that Pennsylvania is basically a big trash dump. We have so much trash littering our highways, which is one way that the plastics and everything else, all of the other products of human endeavor get into our nature, into our ecosystem.
And the piles of trash in the ocean are just horrendous. It's just very scary.
Yeah. Okay.
And even here locally, we're a farming community. I have a farm. And when you see the plastic bags, plastic everything that floats into your fields, it breaks down, as Cindy was saying, it breaks down into mini particles. Well, animals are grazing there. Plus you make crops from it, and that particle gets picked up in the crops. The animals eat it. We eat the food products, the milk, and we're ingesting plastic that way. Mm-hmm. But we don't see it. So out of sight, out of mind. We're trying to bring that awareness to everyone's mind.
At the event coming up on Saturday, some of the topics to be covered when you do that overview of Indiana County plastics initiatives, there are 3 that are mentioned here: the Bench Project, Testing the Waters, and the Downtown Business Survey. Who can tell me about some of those?
Well, there's some IUP students that are doing a survey in connection with our committee, with our environmental committee, and they're going around and asking businesses and restaurants, what exactly do you do with recycling? Why don't you do it? Why do you do it? And how are you using alternatives to plastic? If not, why not? What would incentivize you to do that? Mm-hmm. So they're going to report on what they've found. They've done some stream cleanups and actually logged every bit of plastic they found to do some research on that, one of the grad students. And the Bench Project is this high school student who's collecting all the plastics that you would typically throw out in the garbage.
That's what you were mentioning
He's
before.
He's collecting that, and he's working with a company that makes plastic decking and plastic benches.
Now,
So
you'll
that's
correct
sort of
me if I'm
exciting.
wrong on this, but there are some plastics that are usable for other products through recycling. There are some that are not.
There are some, very few, but there are some. And our recycling center, if you ever want to get a very interesting tour, go on a tour of our recycling center. Mm-hmm. But they do collect 1 and 2 plastics, and those get sent up to a company, and that company produces products with it. But that's a small percentage of all the plastics that we use.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that at the event coming up on Saturday, there will be information and suggestions on how people can not only reduce their use of plastics, but what are some of the alternatives? Plastic bags are the thing that we think of most easily replaceable because there are so many other options, and canvas tote bags that you reuse over and over and over again. That's one of the easy ones.
Alternatives to plastic straws, paper, bamboo straws, pasta straws. There's all kinds of straws being out there on the market.
Metal straws that you're going to be giving out.
Yes, that's right. There are a lot of alternatives. Even cotton clothing. Every time you wash a polyester or plastic-based fiber, you're putting microplastics into the water, which are hard to filter out.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you want more information about it, there is on www.sustainableindianacounty.org. That's our Indiana County Task Force. There's information about the movie on that website.
Mm-hmm. And what else? What do we need to make sure people know before we're done here?
Well, one thing, it's just recycling is key. but they're finding that it's not enough, that we need to cut back our use of plastics where we're not making as much plastic. They have, for example, water bottles. That seems to be the number one thing I've seen, along with one-time use plastic bags along highways. They have great refillable water bottles. I've seen water fountains now that are equipped that you can fill up your water bottle. And so even if we replace those little plastic bottles, people say, yeah, but it's inconvenient to carry it. Well, so is polluting our earth and killing wildlife and harming ourselves. We can't see what it's doing to us because it's invisible, but it's there. So we need to step up and cut down on the amount of plastic that we use by using recyclable bags that we take over and over again. Steph?
And I think with something as scary as this, it's easy to become paralyzed. And I think what's important about even just showing up to a small event like this documentary screening that we're having on Saturday, you'll start to break out of that paralysis. And again, lifestyle change is really important, but I also think activism and involvement is important. So I personally hope to see you all there on Saturday.
Cindy, you pulled out a piece of paper there. What were you?
Yeah, I
wanting to
just wanted
highlight?
to mention that the problem with the microplastics is actually the toxic chemicals used to make those plastics. So that's what goes into our body, and that's the danger of the plastics in our human bodies.
Resources. Folks there's such a great online community out there. What are some of the resources people can learn about plastics, learn about this event?
Oh, well, the sustainableindianacounty.org website,
Okay.
Evergreen Conservancy is also a sponsor of it, and the League of Women Voters, Indiana County. If you Google, what do I need to know about plastic, you will find out more than you ever wanted to know about plastic. And we have a little brochure called All About Plastic that's
In my
available.
hand right now.
Yeah. The League of Women Voters, Indiana County Environmental Committee produced that, and we hope to expand on that. And just, again, like Laurie said and Stephanie, we're trying to build awareness, make people think about what they're using and consuming.
Okay. So the event is coming up on Saturday night.
Yep.
And it's the Philadelphia Street Playhouse where the Indiana Players put on their productions at 725 Philadelphia Street, 6:30 p.m. and free of charge.
Yes.
There you
And
go.
they'll come away knowing a lot more about plastic.
There you go. Ladies, thanks all for coming in to visit with us today.
Thank you,
for having
Todd.
Thank you.
It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS, AM 1160 and 101.1